Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's second of 2 episodes of Idiots in the Wild. This one's about roommates, and it's My Roommate is Basically a Metal Vocalist by Late Sound 9332. My boyfriend and I have been living with this person for 6 months now. At first, we were planning on just living with my best friend, but due to another friend of ours, we met Shroom, the roommate from hell. They didn't seem that bad, just struggling. We all were struggling, so screw it, we ball. We all moved in together. Now for context, I was 18 at the start of the year, but I am now 19. My boyfriend is 19 and will be 20. Shroom is 27. For the most part, Shroom was okay. They didn't do anything more than some condescending remarks, trying to act like we were their responsibility, and randomly bringing their problems to us. Kind of annoying, but not the worst thing ever. Then Shroom asked our opinion on their open relationship boyfriend, and if their side piece was better. From what we heard from Shroom, he kind of sucked and the other guy was better. So we said that, and I made sure to clarify that we didn't know anything and are only saying what we know. Shroom leaves their boyfriend for the other guy. This is where shit goes down. Suddenly, Shroom is really set on a point. They're set on proving a point to someone. They start having breakdowns from the breakup. This really intensifies the point that I still don't know that they're trying to prove. This is getting too long for a retelling, so I'll just give y'all the highlight reel. These are all real things that happened, unfortunately. Shroom saw broken glass outside next to a plastic wrapper, called the cops, and when they said that it wasn't meth, got freaked out that the cops would come back because they threw away the wrapper. Our household cat peed on their bag, and Shroom literally started screaming like a child, and basically proving they could be a pretty good metal vocalist. Then they started hurting my fucking cat. And Shroom is still alive, are they? Interesting. When I heard it, I ran out, but Shroom scampered back to their room. My boyfriend grabbed our cat, and we sat in our room. Shroom sent a text in the chat saying they're finding a new home for our cat. I was already fuming, so I yelled, "No the fuck you're not!" Apparently, Shroom told my boyfriend that I scared them. Good. Sounded like they needed scaring. They've been screaming every day for the past week or two about either a family member or someone else who has hurt them. It got so bad my boyfriend had to tell them to take a walk. They returned 5 hours later without their glasses. They were slamming things all around the bathroom and screaming. I have stuff in the bathroom, so I peek out to make sure it isn't broken. They immediately turn to me and raise their fists aggressively, shaking and all crazy-eyed. I just look at them, because I knew if anything happened, I didn't need to worry about myself. They talk about how they thought they wanted to kill their young relatives because they were crying. I was grossed out. Then they start screaming about someone so loud that it feels like the room shakes. They stared at me again, all crazy, and I just look back at them. I'm not scared of them just because they're screaming and all that. I went to help them look for their glasses, because they kinda need those so they can be anywhere but the house. We walked like 30 blocks one direction and about a mile in another. We went down one whole street for a mile, and I was counting blocks. Shroom was absolutely not built for this and was basically melting. I was chilling, anyways. We stopped for a minute. I left them there after they kept refusing to come home. They didn't come back the next day, and come to find out, they went to the hospital. They got kicked out for acting out, and then went to a store and was arrested for disorderly conduct. They are now out of jail and are home. Shroom is on the loose and is pissed off. I'm not religious, so I don't need prayer. I won't say no to an exorcist, however. Story number 2, entitled Father Gets Wet After He Harassed Me, by Minimum Magazine 549. Hello. So I, 21 female, am a lifeguard at a very... Why, what were you thinking when I said get wet? At a very, very well-known rec center with many locations across America. Safe to say, if I said the company, you'd know them. We have folks from all walks of life to come into our pool to work out, do swim lessons, or just have fun. Generally speaking, we have very few issues with patrons, because most of them have been coming in for years and know how the place works. Most people are receptive to rule changes and enforcement, but there's always that one parent who will complain very loudly that they think a rule is stupid. While annoying, it's not too big of a deal. What is a big deal is creepy people. Unfortunately, with my job, no matter what your gender is, people will flirt with you or make unwanted sexual remarks in your direction. There's a teenage boy who works with me that has had middle-aged women call him jailbait. At my first job, that's kind of just signaling intent, isn't it? My first job as a lifeguard at a resort, not the same location, I had a man say that I wasn't a lesbian, I just haven't had the right dick yet. You can buy dicks. They sell them on Amazon. They do, actually. And that my twin braids would be great handlebars. At this job, now I've had a few comments made that are unfortunate. I've walked younger girls back to their cars because I want to make sure they are safe. Genuinely repulsive behavior, and something like that happened just last week. I was guarding the pool while swim lessons were going on, and we close our pool for said swim lessons to give the kiddos as much space as possible. So, there was significantly less people than normal. One of my guards came to relieve me on my stand, and I walked the edge of the pool and scanned the water, as my job entails. I stuck my tongue out at the little kids, as that's a habit of mine, and I bent over to pick up a toy on the ground. When I bent over, I heard a loud whistle come from one of the parents. Now I'm wearing shorts, pretty short shorts, because it gets really hot in the pool area, even though it's indoors, but it's nothing inappropriate. When I turned around, I saw this guy, about 40 to 50 years old. Men in that age range are always trouble. Grinning at me like he was smooth, he then said, "Damn, don't be dressing like that in front of the boys. They might get ideas." Like minding their own business and being respectful. Mind you, the oldest kids here are like 8 years old. I turn around and say, "Excuse me?" "You gotta know what I mean." "I don't think I do." "Your ass is hanging out of your shorts in front of kids, sticking your tongue out. You're a bad girl, aren't you?" Obviously, I'm immediately uncomfortable and I try to brush it off. Well, I'm within uniform protocol, and the swim instructors teaching your children are wearing even less. "Well, I'll forgive this behavior if you give me your number." I'm not allowed to take patrons' numbers for personal reasons. I'm sorry. "Come on, don't be difficult." Damn, I bet he gets all the women with that attitude. "Sir, I have to continue watching the pool." He started to get visibly heated that I'm not accepting his advances, and then he stands up and approaches me. He's a bit taller than me, and part of me felt nervous if he was going to actually do anything. He was far away from the other parents, and we were close to the edge of the pool. Thankfully, we had gotten the attention of the swim instructors, many of which were also lifeguards, so they were also watching him. He cornered me at the edge of the pool and asked me, "What's the real reason you don't want my number?" "I have a girlfriend, sir. I'm not interested. Plus, he's icky pants." My sentiment, not the OP's. "Girlfriend? You're one of those, then?" He then tried to grab my rescue tube and yank me towards him. Thankfully, I had a tight grip on it and pulled it back towards me. The entitled father stumbled forward and I stepped out of the way before he fell into the water. Dude, when I tell you it was glorious, it was absolutely glorious. His shirt puffed up like a muffin. It was hilarious. Muffins. Ooh, lemon muffin. Making myself hungry. The water wasn't that deep. 3.5 to 4 feet deep. So he wasn't in any danger. Yeah, we kind of went everyone. But due to protocol, I jumped in after him and made him grab my tube. He looked at me and was bright red with embarrassment and anger as I slowly dragged him over to the stairs to get out of the pool. And then the onslaught of insults started. He screamed at me that I was a whore, a slut, a bitch, all the names you can think of. He even called me a few slurs just for good measure. He screamed that he was never going to come here again, great, and that his son would never finish swim lessons because of me. Okay. I honestly don't remember much. I tuned him out. My boss, one of the swim instructors, stepped in between me and the angry man and made me go to file a report. He got kicked out, and the mother came to pick up the son from swim lessons. The mom and child were actually sweet as can be. And she came to find me and apologized for her soon-to-be ex-husband's behavior. Yeah, I was really hoping that would be the case. She actually sat and talked to me about their relationship drama, and that he had tried to do this multiple times in their relationship, and now she was going through with the divorce. It's absolutely crazy, and I'm so glad she's out of that relationship. It isn't all great, though, because that report I had to fill out took me like 3 hours. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. I'm curious, though, more of a personal curiosity. 3 hours, you must have been writing the word wanker a lot. I mean, my heavens. This is just your PSA to treat workers, no matter what they are doing, as people, and not as objects of your desires. Because getting sexually harassed at my job is not fun at all, no matter how silly I am about it in hindsight. Story number 3. AIO with my neighbor, setting up a camera that recorded me for nearly a year, by Mysterious Blood 9396. I don't know what IO means. Am I overreacting? Cool, okay. No, you're not. Am I overreacting? My neighbors moved in next door a few years ago after my wonderful old neighbor died. So as one does, I went round and introduced myself, and they were very standoffish. No problem, some people like their privacy. They're so noisy, and I put up with it for a while, but last Christmas I couldn't sleep in my bedroom or anywhere else in my home due to the impact noise on the adjoining wall. So, after putting up with the very intrusive noise for about a month, I decided to go round and knock on their door. The woman answered and was very condescending and informed me that she had made several noise complaints and had also reported me for having certain people keep coming and going all times of day and night. I haven't done anything illegal for many years. You should leave that "for many years" part off. And the only people who come to my door are Amazon or carers or kids. I can't say who she meant, as that will make this not safe for work. So, I had been recording the noise, and you had a trampoline delivered from Amazon, didn't you? That's what happened, because you couldn't use that at work. It'd be very unsafe. Unless it's a circus. So I had been recording the noise, and as I now knew that they had reported me to the housing association, I reported them, as well you should, and added the recording of the noise with time and date stamps. What would be good if you get an app for your phone or even a proper decibel meter so you can record the levels of the noise and send that information as well. This is where things get weird. My garden is fully enclosed with a 6-foot fence all the way around. Yes. But one panel seemed to keep falling down. No biggie, as I would report it and it would be fixed. I began noticing a red flashing light and went out to inspect it. Wouldn't you know it, they had put up a camera and pointed it into my living room. Unlawful surveillance! So I turned it to face their bungalow and took pictures of it before and after I moved it. This was a really good move on my end, as this was absolutely not the last thing they did. So the housing association officer came out to see us both to try to mediate. Well, the proper mediation would be them fucking the fuck off, and to try to get conflict resolution. They said the right things and had moved the camera to only point on their property, and had moved their son's medical bed off the adjoining wall, so they were sickly sweet, and the officer left feeling as if everything was resolved. That night I noticed the red light again, and realized defense was down again, and so I used that to get to the camera, and with a hammer I smashed it until it was in a million little pieces. Almost immediately the police knocked on my door with accusations of selling and criminal damage, and I gave them all the recordings, and they went next door to ask them for the recordings from that camera. Well, I was waiting for them to come back to mine, but they didn't. But victim support did, and asked if I wanted counseling for my experience of my neighbor's voyeurism. It turns out that they had been recording everything I did from both my bedroom and my living room. I never shut my curtains as, like I said, my garden was enclosed, and there are no homes overlooking the back of my home. I'm not sure how I feel about these damn weirdos watching my every move. So, am I overreacting? No. You're not overreacting at all. If anything, you've been quite calm and underreacting. If charges have not been filed, I certainly hope they're going to be. I mean, it sounds like they've been watching you for a while, and I really don't know what creeps like this get out of watching their neighbors. I mean, we have so many options these days. I understand streaming services can be expensive, but there's free options. No, I definitely pursue it as far as you can legally, and maybe get a restraining order of some kind. Yeah. And keep reporting them for any of the noise. Story number 4. Lady thought that she could use my guest room as a free Airbnb because she's a single mom. By Polly on the Oxenfree. This happened last week, Thursday to be specific. I called up a friend of mine, Sarah, and asked her if she wanted to come out for dinner, since I was making way too much food. And I like to share. She said that she had a friend visiting from out of town and asked if her friend could come along. I said that was fine. Hey, the more the merrier, right? Fast forward about an hour, and my friend knocks on the door. She's got another woman with her and 2 kids I've never seen in my life. The unknown people had bags with them, which made sense to me since they were visiting and probably didn't have time to stow their stuff before coming over. The kids were unexpected, and I really would have liked to have had a heads up that they were coming. Anyway, the mom, Ashley, asked me if she could stash her bags somewhere that would be out of the way. I took her to one of my guest rooms and told her she could put them there. Then I went back to the group. The kids asked if I had video games, which I very much do. So I took them to the game room and showed them my consoles and PCs. They seemed quite chuffed. I'll bet they were. I head back to the kitchen to finish up cooking, while Sarah, Ashley, my wife, and our girlfriend hung out in the living room watching some reality TV brain rot. Everyone was happy. I ring the chow bell. I'll literally ring a brass bell in my kitchen to alert people when food is being served, and start bringing food into the dining room. The adults come in, my kids come in, my grandkids come in. Ashley's kids were still in the game room. I went to let them know that dinner was being served, and they asked to have plates brought to them in the game room. I explained that we don't do that in my house. Everyone eats at the table, and no food is allowed in the game room. They begrudgingly complied and followed me to the dining room. Things were going well. Everyone enjoyed the food. Birria tacos with rice and beans and a side salad. We enjoyed a few drinks, nothing crazy, just 2 or 3 drinks each, and we had some nice conversation. When I got up to get dessert, homemade flan, Ashley wandered back to the guest room where her stuff was. After we ate dessert, Ashley told her kids it was time to get changed for bed. I found this strange. Who puts their pajamas on in a place where they don't intend to sleep? I asked her, why not wait until you're at your hotel to get them changed? At this point, I got a bomb dropped on my head. She didn't have a hotel reservation. Turns out she had set up sleeping bags for her kids in my guest room, since we have so much space. Ma'am, I've never met you before tonight. I did not offer you my guest room to sleep in. Turns out she hadn't booked any accommodations for her family because she knew Sarah had a rich friend with a big house. She fully intended to stay at my house without ever asking either me or Sarah. I got a guilt trip from Ashley, not Sarah, about not supporting single mothers. Oh, bitch, I'll support your ass right out the fucking door. They ended up having to book a room at a local casino hotel. $300 a night for 9 nights. Jeezy crazy. Apparently, I cost a single mother 2 months' worth of rent since I didn't want strangers in my house for 9 fucking days. Not even 9 minutes in my case. How entitled do you have to be to I don't even want people I know most of the time, to be honest with you, to just assume a stranger will put up you and your 2 kids. And for over a week. Fifth and final story. Is patience always a virtue when you have neighbors from hell? By PJ and Gel. Hi everyone, I'm looking for a second opinion and want to know whether this is all in my head or if I'm valid for thinking and feeling this way. We live in the Midwest, some consider it the South, of the U.S., and bought and built our home over 20 years ago in a newly developing neighborhood. The plot of land next to us went unsold for over 10 years because it was such an unappealing and awkward place to build a house. So the landowner built a house and gave it to his daughter. The daughter, Amy, has a husband, Jay, and 2 sons. When these neighbors first moved in, we didn't think much of it because people come and go. And we were currently dealing with some shitty and racist neighbors to the other side of us too. While building and preparing their home, they asked us if they could use our power for their generator, and we gladly allowed them to do it for 3 days. And even left the door cracked open at night just to allow their machine to stay plugged in. Must be a safe neighborhood. About a week later, my dad met Jay and approached him to say hello. But when my dad extended his hand to shake Jay's, Jay looked at him and walked away. My dad is a brown Middle Eastern man, visibly a person of color, and speaks with a slight accent when he talks. We thought that this interaction was slightly strange, but let it go. Races to the left, races to the right, here I am. For some context regarding neighbor familiarity, a few years before building the house, Amy's dad decided to confront my mom one day, making her cry and yelling at her, all while my dad was working abroad, because there was a pile of rocks near a group of trees in between the landline, and he insisted that they be moved because it looked unpleasing. This man rarely went to the land, which was a literal forest at the time, and didn't care that my mom had just given birth to my youngest brother and was working full-time. Amy's sons, on the other hand, struck up a friendship with my youngest brother after moving in, and were at our house practically every day, asking if my brother could play with them. He was in elementary school at the time. So our relationship with the neighbors was cordial, not close, nor entirely unfamiliar. Over time, my brother distances himself from the boys as he enters and later graduates high school, and the boys keep to themselves. Here is where all of the problems started to pile up. Amy decided to buy dirt bikes for her kids one year, and for whatever reason they decided that our yard and driveway, it's a long driveway on a hill, would make a perfect place to practice their bike riding. My dad was incredibly upset by this because he worked hard to make the yard look nice and would often tend to a garden in the back of the house. Literally everyone in our street complains about the sons on the dirt bikes. We have neighbors that live a few houses down, and part of their yard looks like someone was trying to run wheelies through the grass. We also have an HOA. I know, not ideal. That could get someone fined over not having cut grass or your mailbox being a certain color. So having visible dirt bike marks wasn't an ideal problem to be dealing with. They would also leave a ton of basketballs and random items in our yard for weeks before deciding to collect them. We repeatedly told the boys to stay on their side of the yard, and on many occasions, including today, Jay would see this happen and go off on my mom or dad and ask why they were yelling at his sons, even though he was watching this all happen too. They also broke our basketball hoop one summer when they had a pool party. It was a nice $200 one from a sporting center, and pretended like it just suddenly fell and broke. So we gave up on trying to pursue anything since we don't have security cameras get 'em. Jay also decided to randomly hang a Trump 2020 banner on the back of his porch after Trump won his first election, and the only people who were able to see the banner were us. So it became apparent to us over time that we were dealing with someone who wasn't going to make it easy. Additionally, a few months ago, my parents were outside, and Amy's son saw them and started to make monkey gestures and were signaling a popular Indian TikTok sound. I was so upset by this that I made an anonymous Facebook post telling our neighbors to please respect privacy and talk to their kids about not being racist. This post went ignored, and instead, someone random commented and told me that I shouldn't have commented anonymously because they wanted to know who I was. Found the racist. In addition to the racism, breach, and destruction of private property, they would often blast music from their garage door at literally any hour of the day, sometimes 7 a.m., sometimes 1 a.m., with the most random mid-ass rap music and SoundCloud audio, and would leave it running for hours during the day. And it's been difficult for me to deal with, because I've been in the midst of studying for my board exams for med school. Today, I was sitting at my desk and happened to hear the kids yelling at another kid to come back to their side of the yard because he had broken the car's side mirror on one of our cars. I went outside to see what was going on, only to realize that they were calling out to my dad and saying things like, "Sam, my dad, baby. Hey," the kid's name, "stop looking at his butt." And one of them pulled his shirt up and started rubbing himself while looking towards my dad, who was working on one of our cars outside. My dad is nearing his 70s, has a number of health issues, and doesn't have the energy to deal with this in addition to the taunting and racist remarks. He tried to say something to the kids, but when he asked to speak to their parents, well, that's a lost cause by this point, isn't it? They lied and told him that no one was home. While he was kindly telling them to stop, Jay suddenly appeared from inside and asked him why he was yelling at his kids. My dad told him that they were harassing him, and that they're purposely blasting music out loud, and that I have an important exam I'm trying to study for. Instead of apologizing, Jay looked back at the kids and then went inside. He did the same thing to my mom a few years prior when she tried to confront him about the kids too. The dirt bike, yelling, and music thing happens practically every day, but I've mostly tried to ignore it, since I've been too stressed with my studies to worry about this right now. The mom is usually nowhere to be seen other than Facebook group posts, because she works. But even if she were home, I doubt that trying to address this with her would change anything, considering that I've told her son to stay on his side of the yard, in front of her, and that she has seen my Facebook post and probably has heard from her husband and kids. I thought about calling the police if they came back to our yard and were visibly destructive in an effort to scare the kids, but I don't want to waste a cop's time, and don't want to create any more tension than we already have. Should I just try to continue to ignore them? No, you really shouldn't. And pray that they decide to move someday. What would you do in this? Well, you can't hope they're just going to randomly move someday. I mean, they might, but, you know, they were basically given a house. Cameras. I say this to so many people, but you flat out said you don't have cameras, and in this situation you definitely need them. You need to capture whatever they're doing to your property whenever they're harassing you. Keep notes of everything, document everything, save any footage of any shenanigans happening, and if you can trust the police to actually come out and be respectful in your area, you should call the cops. I say that because some cops are great, some cops aren't. They aren't all created equal. So if you've got good ones where you live, you should definitely be calling them when you have evidence of things that have happened. Don't put up with it. They're not going to stop. They're learning this from their parents, that it's okay. The Trump thing was definitely a racial attack on your father. No doubt in my mind about that. They're not going to change. These people never change until things affect them personally. So I wouldn't hope that it's just going to stop one day or they're going to move. You're going to have to take action, corrective action, so that they realize that their actions have consequences, because right now, right up until now, they've had no consequences for their actions. They've gotten away with everything. And that's emboldened them. And they're going to keep doing it. I wish you all luck. 70 years old, the man should be enjoying his retirement. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed us to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. $1 or more a month, whatever you're comfortable supporting, gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday. There's also a link to my merchandise store over on Teespring, as well as my Discord server, my Threads account, and my email, which is kingofthecities@gmail.com, if you need to contact me. That's everything for now. It's 4:45 in the morning. I've got 3 videos to finish off. I just have to put them together. I was just trying to get everything done. So it means I've got the weekend to do garden maintenance, because it's just that time of year. And hopefully a day doing nothing. We'll see. I'm working on a little project. I've managed to acquire the first 5 seasons of Deep Space Nine from eBay. I've got the last 2 to get. So I'm sort of backing them up digitally, so I can essentially create my own streaming service I can just use within the home. Just deciding what server. If I want to use Plex or Jellyfin, it's going to be one of those 2. Anyway, that's my little project I'm working on, because I love Star Trek. I got way too comfortable that I had access to it on streaming services, so I didn't buy them, because I thought, well, I can spend that money on other things because I'm paying for this and I've got access to that. But the things you love can go away on streaming services very quickly. So now it's just a matter of whenever I can find them for reasonable prices, buy them. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves.